fear through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Ooh, buddy, we are chasing the pennant officially. We are chasing the pennant podcast. I am hosting this one tonight. I am Shane, and I'm joined with 4 of our co-hosts. Baseball is back. We are officially back, mercifully. I got Rob. Rob, how'd you celebrate baseball back, man?
I got one question. What the fuck?
Jesus.
We waited until the end of July just to see our boys lose 2 out of 3 to the goddamn Marlins. But with that being said, it was nice to have baseball back. It's not so nice to have the typical Phillies back.
It was a maddening series, but we are back nonetheless. Sean, you missed a little bit of it because you're a working man now. But how did you celebrate opening day?
I drank.
Okay.
Because this team infuriates me, and after the first game, I definitely had a drink because that game, it brought me back to a realistic Philly sports expectation world. And honestly, you know, I don't know what to expect with this team anymore. But I'll throw it back to you. We'll talk about that.
Man, the waves of emotion through 72 hours of being open at this point. Leave that to the Phillies. Leave that to John Middleton. Leave that to Matt Klentak and the donkey of a pen that we've thrown out there. But that's okay. We're only 3 games in. We have 159. No, we don't. That's right. We kind of got to win these series. Andrew, how are you, man? How did you bring in opening day?
I'm all right. Opening day, just kind of watched the game here in my room, and then actually got out yesterday. And after the Phillies game, one of the coaches had some people over and kind of grilled out and watched the nightcap games. So that was fun.
Nice. Good stuff. All right, and then Boric, who is extra heated today, so I am absolutely looking forward to some of his comments that may come out of this show. It's gonna be a quality Boric show. But Boric, how are you today, man?
I've been much better, but that's why I'm happy I have MLB. That's why I'm happy T-Mobile's the best phone company in the world and gave me MLB TV for free, so I got to watch some good baseball this weekend, mixed into our putrid play against the Marlins, but I'll save more for that as we go into the game later on. But other than that, those other teams helped me, and Matt Olson, the A's carrying my fantasy team right now, so I got helped out by some guys doing good. So if my fantasy team sucked, would have been a total wash weekend. But we're looking pretty good against Sean so far. Sean's also looking pretty good though. I like the matchup. We're a very good matchup right now, back and forth.
Kind of hard not to be. There's only 8 teams. Well, we're recording this one on Sunday night, so we have seen our very first series of this interesting and different 2020 series or season. Nothing's changed in the Phillies front. Not a fucking thing, but that's okay. We have a lot to talk about. We'll start. We're going to just kind of go game by game. Those of you guys who have listened to us throughout this entire offseason, we've talked a lot about TV. We've talked a lot about food. We've talked a lot about baseball players who are no longer playing. And now we finally get to sit in here and do what we originally all signed up to do here. And that's talk Philadelphia Phillies baseball. So we are going to bring you guys a lot of game breakdown and then some predictions and things like that in later shows in the week. But we're excited. This is obviously, from the tone of all the members at this point, this did not go well on opening weekend, but we do still have our Phillies left, or Phillies back. So let's start it off in night one. Night one, not great. Aaron Nola looked similar to last year's opener, and I don't know how you guys recall him from last year, but when he's not spotting his fastball, he's a different pitcher. And when he is needing to utilize those off-speed pitches to get him ahead in counts, you're going to miss sometimes. And miss he did. It was 1 inning. Andrew has said in our text messages how much he loathes that 1 inning, 1 pitch type of thing. Well, this is Major League Baseball. It typically is just 1 inning or 1 pitch. But what were you guys' early impressions of Aaron Nola so far? And I'm actually going to throw this one right to Andrew at the start.
I thought overall he was pretty good. I mean, the first 2 innings he looked really sharp, and he kind of obviously ran into a lot of trouble in the 6th inning there. And you always hear that walks come back and kill pitchers. And
Just in Philadelphia.
But yeah, that's what happened with Nola. I mean, he led that 6th inning. He walked Miguel.
Squeezed.
Yeah, I thought that was a strike too. I thought that could have been. I think it would have been strike 3, right?
Well, his first pitch of the at bat and last pitch of the at bat were both pretty much there. So he got no help there.
Yeah, so I think it was a full count. So I think that ball 4 should have been strike 3, and that kind of set up the inning for the Marlins there. And that's when Nola really kind of fell apart. Like obviously he made a few mistakes in the 3rd inning when he kind of gave up that first run, but ultimately he settled down until that 6th inning, and kind of outside of spots here and there, I thought he looked better than he did last year opening day. Honestly, obviously the Marlins are not as powerhouse as the Braves were, so that kind of played into it as well. But yeah, once he ran into trouble in the 6th inning, I felt like he didn't have his command not only in that inning but for the majority of the game itself. So I felt like the command kind of got to him, and he never kind of settled in as much as you would have liked him to do throughout that game.
Yeah, that was something that was interesting to me because Girardi in his post-game notes that he was pretty impressed with what Aaron had throughout that night. And that to me is alarming. So there's 2 schools of thought on this. One, this is just how Aaron Nola has looked to him for the last both spring training and summer camp, which means Aaron Nola doesn't look very good. Or 2, he's just flat out lying to the city of Philadelphia, which is not great. We saw that with Gabe. I love Gabe, but he had a habit of doing that. We can see things, and we saw that this was not Aaron's best night. To me, it looked a lot like a guy who, and he mentioned on an interview on WIP at one point, when he found out that you're not going to be able to lick your fingers anymore. He's a guy who religiously, in between every single pitch, is licking his fingers. You could tell that there were many times throughout that game that he kind of put his hand to his mouth and had to stop himself. I don't know how much or little that he utilized that wet rag in his pocket, or if he even had it, but it is certainly not the same. Rob, what did you kind of take away from Aaron Nola on that night, and do you think that new rule of not being able to lick your fingers to get a different kind of grip on that fastball, think that had anything to do with it?
I actually, because of work, I actually was not able to watch the game live. I was able to watch the highlights when I got home. I was listening to it on the radio, and for the first 3 or 4 innings, it sounded like he, from what they were calling on the radio, it sounded like he was doing pretty well. He was throwing a high percentage of strikes, which maybe too high a percentage of strikes if he was by that 6th inning leaving balls out over the zone and getting hit around a little bit. But yeah, looking at the highlights, I think that, I don't know. I think you're pretty much right on the point in saying that him not being able to lick his fingers and, go to the mouth, that's a big thing for him, because that's something that he's done probably just as much as any other pitcher in baseball since he's been in the league. That's been a big part of, him being able to get a grip on that baseball. We mentioned it a bunch of times in Cap We Trust last season of how he kind of struggled to get a grip with the new baseball last year. And you factor that in addition to the fact that he can't go to the mouth this year, and that could be problematic. He needs to figure out a way to overcome that. Clearly the wet rag wasn't enough for him. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of atones for that this season. But just judging by the highlights that I saw and what I heard on the radio, it wasn't the worst outing of all time for him, but it also wasn't very good. And he didn't get much in the way of run support. They only had the Didi solo home run by the time he was pulled out of the game. So that certainly did not help. Of course, last year he had the advantage of them putting 10 runs on the board for him, which was the complete opposite of what happened on the opening day this year. But I'm not too alarmed by it. It's 3 runs is not the end of the world. Granted, it was the Marlins, not a great offense, even though they looked like a great offense today. But, not great, but I'm not too alarmed by it right now.
So Nola's final line on that opening start was 5 1/3, give up the 5 hits, 4 runs, all of them earned, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, and the 1 missed pitch on that home run. Again, not his best night. or day, so it seems. He turns this thing over to the bullpen. Now we have heard so much hatred for Gabe, even beyond the point that he is repping the Philadelphia Phillies uniform and hat. We sat here and we saw the very first call to the bullpen go to Rosso. I'm going to throw this to Boric because Boric has been the harshest guy on all of our bullpen figures to this point. And I think that we need some actual emotion behind why was this the decision? We have Joe Girardi, who's supposed to be this kind of bullpen wizard, and he goes to Raymond Rosso. Not the best move. Comes in there and looks like an absolute train wreck. What did you see out of him?
Well, I guess, I would have went with, if we went with McClann, since he's a veteran, again, not proven at all. The only people we have in our bullpen that are proven right now are Tommy Hunter, Hector Neris, and, well, kind of Adam Morgan, and then Alvarez. So, like, if you wanted to go to a lefty, I guess, but I think he wanted to go right-handed, so I don't know why you went with, this kid looked great in camp, let me make him the first guy out of the pen. But I'm assuming that was his line of thinking. Otherwise, it makes no sense. So I'm going to go with that was his line of thinking. But I would have went with, even though the guy has no experience again and isn't proven, if you put in the veteran second, you should have put in a guy that at least has been pitching in America for years now and has been pitching for years in the minors and actually, you got him from Seattle. You thought he was going to make the major league roster if he was able to control the strike zone. He has good stuff. He just has sucked his whole career controlling the strike zone, but he's actually looked good that game. And then this game, he obviously gave up a bad hit, but we'll get to that. But
cock shot. That's right.
Yeah. But I don't know why he would go to the youngster first. I think it's just our lack of right-handed depth, honestly. Our right-handers in our bullpen suck. We have nobody, nobody's proven in our bullpen that's right-handed other than Tommy Hunter and Hector Neris. So I guess it's just, Russo looked the best in camp. McClann really didn't look that great in camp. He looked solid. He looked better, honestly, even giving up the hit today in his first 2 games than he did in camp. So my guess would be Matt Glentak. Screw you. That would be what I would have to say, because otherwise we would have had a middle reliever that was right-handed that was actually worth a damn. I would have rather had freaking, like I told Andrew, if we traded for someone like Ross Stripling and put him in our rotation and then had Vince as a middle reliever, that would have looked a lot better than having him starting. So, but no, Matt Glentak's not creative, so.
I'll tell you what, man.
Go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say, teach yourself how to completely neglect a pitching staff and you'll be eligible to be the Phillies' next GM.
It's very true. Yeah. It's very true. But you said something interesting there, and it's something that we will revisit in a bit when we touch on Vince Velasquez's start today. But how much do you guys, and I'm going to go to Sean for this, how much do you feel as though the spot that we would be in would be so much better if we had committed to turning both Vince Velasquez and Nick Pivetta into bullpen pieces early, right when they showed that their stuff just wasn't it for starters? Maybe a second shot in there, in 2017 or so. But let's not just keep going to the well. Let them go in there and teach them how to be what is now one of the most integral pieces in all of baseball, is that multi-inning reliever. We would have 2 guys throwing above 95, especially in short inning situations, each with at least one dominant pitch and some stuff to work with there. How much better off do you feel as though this bullpen and this overall pitching of the Philadelphia Phillies would be had we taken that approach and then maybe went after a J.A. Happ, went after like the 1-year filler deals from rookies, the A.J. Burnett's of years past? How much better do you think that we would be off right now if that was a decision we made in, say, 2018, the second half?
If we had done it back then, it would have made a lot more sense. But the fact that we had strung it out so long, you can't say that about the team right now, because Pivetta and Velasquez both went about 3 innings today, and neither of them have an ERA below 5. I know it's one game, you can't really look at it, but neither of them looked any more impressive than they have, in the seasons past. So it's impossible to say that they're going to be they would have been better if we had turned them into bullpen guys years ago. I mean, maybe if they had been turned into one inning guys, not so much the long reliever role that you're talking about. But honestly, I've been very high on both of these guys, Pivetta more than Velasquez. But from what I saw today, it almost feels like, despite all of the little nitpicky changes that they've made in this offseason, nothing's changed. And honestly, we've been in a loophole of Philadelphia sports besides the Eagles for how many years now? Like it feels like these guys are never going to be the starting pitchers that we have believed them to be. So I personally, I'm off the bandwagon for both of them. I just they're not showing the changes that they're capable of showing.
All right, I think that's fair. Go ahead, Andrew.
I was gonna say I think this team would have been a lot better off. I mean, because even if they're not solid pieces in the pen, if you do throw them in the bullpen, you open up that rotation spot right off the gate, and you know what you need to do in the offseason rather than trying to squeeze another year out of these guys. I mean, obviously you're not going to go out and sign 2 Zach Wheelers this offseason, but you could have went out and still signed. I mean, who knows how good they're going to end up being this year because they do have some age to them. But you could have went out and got a guy like Cole Hamels. You could have got a guy like Kyle Gibson. You could have got a guy like Michael Pineda, Tanner Roark. I mean, there's plenty of options there to kind of get a lower level starter that would have been good innings eaters at the back end of that rotation, especially a guy like Tanner Roark. I mean, yeah, he's not Zach Wheeler, but he's a guy that goes out and gets the job done, I feel like, the majority of the time, and a guy that's been on a contending team. So obviously he's been there and done that. What was that?
He's Joe Blanton. He keeps you in the games and he'll throw 180 to 200 innings.
And there's a guy he's not going to go out there and throw shutouts every game, but he'll go out there and keep you in the game throughout the entire time, especially with an offense like this team's going to have this year. And I mean, there's plenty of guys this past offseason that are like a Tanner Roark and could eat a lot of those innings. And that's why I think if they would have just either committed to letting him go, because obviously they've never shown anything before, or if they would have committed to the bullpen, you would have been a lot better off because you could have replaced them this offseason.
Yeah, well, you want to know why that's the case? Because our team is ran by absolute bona fide doofuses. So that's why that's the case.
No, I agree with you. I mean, it starts with that group, and I think we all have said it before, and we all can point it back to this team is not willing to go over the luxury tax for whatever reason, and it's going to continue to show it until you get a new group in here that's willing to go over that tax limit.
Why don't we just have Bryce Harper buy the fucking team?
Right.
Michael Jordan. Was he good in his role beyond a player in the sport of basketball? There's a reason these guys typically don't turn into something overly special in that kind of a role. But I appreciate the enthusiasm.
I'll tell you guys one thing. I mentioned in the group chat that I used to work for a landscaping company that did work on Middleton's property. And I'm not going to name the company, and I haven't worked. It's been 5 years now since I worked for them. But the fact that he chose the company that I was with over a number of probably higher quality companies that would have charged more, that kind of says a lot about him.
Well, maybe you're underselling just how lovely this whatever company you work for is.
Trust me, I'm not. I'm
All
not.
right.
I absolutely am not.
Send me a text so I know to not go to that company then for any of my future landscaping needs. All right, so Andrew had mentioned something in there, about the offense, and we all look on paper at the pieces, and it's easy to get excited. You have Andrew McCutchen, who was an excellent leadoff hitter to start off last year, and even showed some of the pop that had kind of looked like it was waning. But we have him back from injury. We have the intrigue in Hoskins. We obviously have Harper. We have Realmuto. We get Didi Gregorius, who we're obviously all falling in love with super quick here. We have that contact bat to ball guy in Gene Segura. We have some power threat in Bruce. We have Quinn, Kingery, who we're high on. And then we have the combination of Quinn, who should never see the baseball field again, and Hazley out there in center. So up and down this lineup, there are threats that are legitimate. And we have power threats. We have contact threats. We do have some speed and quality base runners. And all we did was, through the first 4 of our lineup, go 1 for 14 with a single hit, and it was an absolute, excuse me, I'm still not that great of a hitter from Rhys Hoskins. Bloop over the second baseman's head or first baseman's head, depending on how that shift was. That's not good. Like, that is not enough. Now, I will admit that Alcantara was pretty filthy. I mean, he was really, really good for opening day. But still, you expect more from this offense, and we haven't seen it yet, and we're seeing essentially the exact same problems we've been seeing from a Phillies offense for about a decade now. Sean, what is your early impression of this lineup as a whole? What kind of changes would you make right now to jumpstart some things?
Well, for one, and I know this was the obvious opinion of all Philadelphians, was go with the hot bat, Phil Gosselin, who batted like 950 in inter squads and all that. Like, how do you not play that bat? And then in his first game, where people judged him, Girardi, for putting him in at DH, he hits 2 home runs. I mean, how do you not play that bat a third day in a row? But besides that, there's some questionable decisions by Joe Girardi in the dugout.
What in the hell?
There was some, starting. I mean, Roman Quinn was the hot bat out of inter squads and scrimmages and all that, and obviously we'll get to that, but that failed. And Hazley showed how good he can be today. I mean, there was just some questionable.
I do have a comment on the Hazley stuff. Keep going.
There was just some questionable decisions that happened, and I jokingly said Joe Kapler to a friend, and I said I would bring it up tonight. But there's. We talked about this in our group chat. There were some questionable lineup decisions, the third game into the season. And, I mean, yeah, every game is important and you want to find the right combination as soon as possible. But it just seemed questionable. And I'm not questioning Joe Girardi because I do still believe in him. I do believe in him a lot more than I believed in Kapler, even though I loved Kapler. But there were just some decisions that made me scratch my head and think, what are you doing? One of those being Rhys in the 2-hole. And, I mean, we'll get to that, but it just seemed a little odd to start the season.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are some really easy decisions you can make that would maximize the current skill set and mindset of some of your players in this offensive lineup that would give you a far more productive 1 through 9 than what we've rolled out thus far. I think that it was clear early on Girardi, at least through this first series, is going to put guys where they were comfortable and where they kind of fit last year. And then for new guys, they were going to kind of fit and squeeze in some of those other places. But ultimately, I don't think that that's going to be the direction this team goes for the long term. We'll start with Hoskins in this one. I had mentioned in the group chat, talked about it on Twitter. If we're counting on Rhys Hoskins to be our second legitimate power bat in this lineup, his approach to this game is absolutely not conducive for success in that role. Rhys Hoskins will stare at meatballs and cookies right over the heart of the plate over and over and over again on pitch 1 and on pitch 2, and he will immediately, purposefully, it seems, put himself in a defensive mode, and that is going to cut down on the amount of power that you're going to be able to put forth on some of these swings. Now, we understand the skill set of Hoskins at this point to be a pretty good recognizer of the strike zone. He's drawing walks at an insane clip right now. I think he had 6 or 7 in this opening series. But that without any actual authoritative swings in there and offensive, powerful swings, he's kind of useless. Like, just a little bit. In today's game, sure, you need people on base, but is it really your 2-hole hitter right now? Do you slide Rhys back to a 6 or a 7? Do you make him that non-traditional leadoff hitter? What would you do with Rhys right now, Rob?
Right now, I think I would flip him and JT. I think JT is the kind of guy you could fit him anywhere in the lineup and he'll produce.
Didn't want to put Hoskins in the biggest RBI spot in a lineup after him never swinging a baseball bat? I love getting JT out into the 2-hole. I'm 100% on board with that. I just think the 4-hole for Hoskins is equally as bad of a mistake as the 2.
I think it's a mindset thing, though. See, I think that
okay,
Rhys in the 2-hole probably goes to the plate with this mindset that, okay, I just want to get on base here. I want to maybe draw a walk. Drawing a walk is never a bad thing. But
Sure.
he's up there with this mindset that, okay, I don't need to hit a home run. I can just draw a walk, and I've got Bryce and I've got JT coming up after that, and we can kind of get something going here. I think that's the wrong mindset to have for Rhys Hoskins. I think that he needs to be up there with the mentality to swing away. And if you can get JT in that 2-hole, if you can get Bryce in that 3-hole, and you have guys on base for Rhys when he comes to the plate, maybe that opens things up a little bit for him. Maybe he goes to the plate and says, okay, I've got runners on first and third. I got to put the ball in play here and at least get that guy from third base home. I just think that coming to the plate in a situation where you're less likely to have runners on base to drive in, I think that changes the way Rhys approaches his at-bat, and not in a good way.
All right, so you have more confidence in that than I do. I've watched him throughout his short minor league career as well. This is kind of who he is. In the minors, you can end up hitting 40 home runs on 3-2 pitches and 2-2 pitches, after staring at 2 meatballs across the plate because, well, they're minor league pitchers. They're not Alcantara. They're not these guys who are coming up right now who have legitimate stuff, who are major league ready pitchers. And I just think his skill set right now is not meant for a top 4 bat in anybody's lineup, unless you change him to a leadoff guy, a non-traditional leadoff guy. Some other notes just on this one. Gregorius is the offense through the first 2 nights. What a breath of fresh air he has been. Fun to watch defensively through this first series. Made a couple really eye-popping plays out there. And then obviously that's such a sweet swing, left-handed out there. But we will get to him a little bit more in some of these other 2 games. But the Phillies do drop their home opener 5-2, only muster up 5 hits. And I know Didi didn't have all 5, but it sure as shit felt like he did. Their second run coming essentially on just a misplayed ball by Villar out there in center field, which, hey, thanks, pal. Appreciate you not squeezing. But if that's the way you're mustering up a second run late into the game, I would say your offense probably isn't so great. So Joe Dillon, what's up, man? Maybe don't suck. Maybe don't come in here and don't make some changes, because this is the exact same Philadelphia Phillies offense that we see for the last 3-4 years. So moving to game 2 here, we have the anticipated debut of the new dad power and Zach Wheeler. And he looked great, man. He looked so good. He looked how you would hope Aaron Nola is going to come back to looking. He had command of all of his pitches. He managed his pitch count incredibly effectively, ended up going 7 innings for us, and only let up the 1 run. Really, really impressive stuff. And he has far better career numbers against the Marlins than I would go and render to say every fucking Philadelphia Philly other than him has. So he was an absolute breath of fresh air in this one. Early thoughts on him, Sean. I'll go to you.
Well, I really didn't get to see him. I was at work.
Mistake that. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just glad, I have a feeling he came in and whatever he was told by the pitching coaches, he kind of just looked at them and said, guys, I got this. Let me do my thing. I got dad power behind me. And he went out and really did what, every other starter should have done against the Phillies and against the Marlins and dominated. And I wish that he could teach or, give tips to these other guys that seem to struggle against this, cellar-dwelling Marlins lineup, because it's so frustrating to see every other Phillies pitcher struggle besides Wheeler against a team that's not supposed to be good this year.
Yeah, it's absolutely maddening. Let's just hope that what this organization does not bleed into Zach Wheeler's success against that team, because I'd like to just throw him all 3 games next series in some capacity. Let's just mad bum him and see what happens. Regular season mad bum. Who cares? but really, really impressive stuff. And again, like I said, a true breath of fresh air. The offense, aside from 3 swings, wasn't overly impressive, or 4 swings, I guess it was, that day. Obviously, we mentioned earlier in the show, Phil Gosselin, who is just obliterating baseballs right now. I will say this, though, about the Gosselin thing. If anyone calls him Barrels one more time, if Kruk calls him Barrels one more time, I might throw a remote through the TV. That is the corniest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
He even wants to be called Goose. He said that in the interview.
Just call him Phil. He just looks awkward. He doesn't even look like a baseball player. Like, just be grateful you're up there. Just keep raking, kid.
He just looks like an
Don't call
average
him.
Joe from Plymouth White Marsh.
And it turns out he is. But really, really nice start to the season for him here. With and some opposite field power, too. First home runs for him since 2018. I legitimately didn't think he could hit the ball out of the infield. I thought he was just kind of a guy. So really cool to see that work out for him. JT hits one off the top of that center field like vine wall that we have out there for his one good swing that he's had all year so far. And someone else hit one, right? I'm not blank. Didi hit it 2 nights in a row.
Didi hit another one.
That's right. Superhero Didi, who right now is our only offensive player
That was
who I
into the
enjoy.
second deck.
That was a shot, man.
Yeah.
He is fun, and he is just a lot of fun. But again, outside of those 4 swings, not really couldn't muster very much here, against the Marlins. And I mean, we drew, how many walks did we draw? 9 walks that game. So the Phillies are still doing their part in seeing pitches, and they're still making pitchers work. But in typical Philadelphia Phillies fashion, Chip Dillon, we're not making anyone pay. All we're making them do is throw 17 extra pitches an inning, and then just nothing fucking happens. You can't continue to let pitchers off the hook like that, especially bad pitchers against bad teams. You have got to make them pay. And this offense so far has failed to do so. The one guy I want to talk about a little bit from this game, aside from Wheeler, is Andrew McCutchen. So, and Andrew, I'll go to you for it. He has not looked right. A ball that he got to, and he did show his swag and his personality out there on that play. It was still, they had said on the broadcast, a 65% catch probability there. And when I looked at that, the way that he made that play seem, it seemed like it was going to be like a 5% catch probability, but he just doesn't seem there. In the box, he looks terrible. Like, he just absolutely does not look like Andrew McCutchen. And then I just wonder just how good of jumps he's really getting out there in the outfield at this point on a ball like that. Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful for the highlight and the future gifts that we will use, but he doesn't look great. What are you seeing out of Andrew McCutchen so far, starting the year 0 for 9?
Yeah, like you said on the defensive play there, it looked like he did get a late jump and didn't get a good read off the bat, and I think that's why it turned into that difficult catch in that sense. Overall, though, in terms of that, I don't think it has anything to do with his comeback from the knee. I think his defense will be fine. At the plate, I think he just looks over anxious. Like, I think obviously you see everything he did in that summer camp when everyone came back, and he's always filled with joy and everything, and he's just loving being out there and just loving being around the team and everything. And it kind of reminds me, obviously he didn't get it's not because of the contract, but in the same way, it kind of reminds me of last year with like Harper kind of way. Like, he's just anxious to get out there. He knows what could have been last year before the injury. He knows how much the fans love him now at this point, especially after the injury. The fans valued him a lot more, so his value kind of went up in that sense. And it seemed like just from the beginning, he tried to just come out here and act like he never missed a game last year, never missed a beat. And it just never seems like from seeing his swings in the exhibition games and the inter-squad games to the way this season kind of kicked off, he just doesn't seem like he's waiting back on the pitches. He looks like he's just trying to swing through everything and make the most out of it and kind of get extra value out of it rather than like just taking the pitch where it is and driving it the way where it goes. And I mean, just comparing it to last year, I mean, if you remember what type of leadoff hitter he was last year, and he was always taking pitches and stuff, and he was before he went down, he led the MLB in walks, I believe. I mean, compared to this year, it seems like he's always up there, and he I don't know if he ever saw an at bat so far this year where he saw more than like 3 or 4 pitches. Like, he's just up there, it seems like swinging at everything, trying to get that first hit out of the way, and kind of almost seems like also a rookie in a sense, like just trying to get that first hit out of the way since being back, and it's just kind of seems like it's thrown his entire game off.
Yeah, I think that, considering his play right now and looking like that of a rookie, I think that's pretty accurate. He looks antsy. He looks like he's 100% sitting there and forcing swings and looking to make a splash. It's weird. You sit there and he's a guy not unlike Harper, and we saw it all year last year, who definitely plays into the fans. He's a big personality guy on the field, and it almost seems like he's looking to make up for the energy in the ballpark that just isn't there without these fans. And you can tell, he's pressing, and I'm not going to panic on him. He's a professional. Like he's a guy who I trust to get it right on his own. But definitely something to kind of keep an eye on there. Another guy to sit here and kind of talk about. Boric mentioned him a little bit earlier, so I'll go to him. It was Tommy Hunter got to pitch in this one. Tommy Hunter, we would not have otherwise started the season with us this year, coming back from flexor tendon surgery. Didn't have the same velocity that we're accustomed to seeing from Tommy Hunter. Looked like he gained back all of the weight and then some that he had started to kind of shed last year. But Tommy Hunter, to me, is a guy who has always been a fuck you, give me the baseball guy. He was like the polar opposite of the Pat Neshek. Pat Neshek could sneeze the wrong way and be out for 3.5 months. And Tommy Hunter, I'm pretty convinced that if he could feel the baseball on his fingertips last year, he would have just kept throwing. And I love that about him. He's such an old school guy in that way. I don't know how much success he's going to have long term without the 95, 96, but he does have that cut fastball that really, really works. And he's had, or at least in this first start or bullpen appearance, definitely commanded the zone really, really well. What were your early impressions of Tommy Hunter's first game back, especially in a kind of shortened camp for him, Bork?
Well, I was going to say, I'm glad you brought up the cutter, because I think he's a guy, because of the mentality he has where he just wants the ball. He's also a pretty smart pitcher I've always got from him. I think because of that cutter, too, as long as he can locate it on the corners or kind of start it at the righty's hip and have it come back into the strike zone, whatever have you. If he's able to do that with that pitch, I think he will still be okay, even with a couple velos off. But the other thing we have to remember is coming back from an injury, sometimes it does take a game, 2 or 3 or so to get your velocity back and really feeling loose and kicking. So maybe he will get his velo up. So I do like what I saw from him, though. Like I said, he's one of our reliable righties because we have an absolutely unproven staff when it comes to right-handers other than Tommy Hunter and Hector Neris. Your most proven guy other than them is Diolis Guerra, who has like a 58 ERA in the major league. So,
whoa, he has a 0 ERA right now.
Well, in this season, but I'm talking about career-wise. The dude hasn't been good in the majors. He's been good in the minors. But no, Hunter, I believe in. I actually think he's a great pitcher. I was happy we brought him back. If he can stay healthy for 60 games, his cutter is filthy, like you said. I think if he can add even 1 or 2, like only a mile per hour or more, he's a guy that can mix his pitches well. I think he's a guy that's going to do fairly well this year for us as probably the setup guy all year to Hector Neris, unless if Hector struggles a bit as a closer, then I could potentially see him even closing some and then have Hector be the setup guy. But either way, I think Tommy Hunter's going to have a good, productive year for us this year, and I was very happy when we re-signed him, because let me tell you, if we didn't re-sign him, Mac Lentak would have had a foot up his ass, because we would have had absolutely nobody.
We do have next to no one.
In our bullpen other than Hector Neris, and I do not just want Hector Neris. I love Hector Neris, but as our only righty at the age of 31, when he has been banged up the past couple years. So I'm happy that we got another guy, even though he's been banged up the last couple of years in Tommy Hunter. I would have much rather had us also add another guy, but like we said, Mac Lentak is not a smart man when it comes to adding pitching. So that's
certainly seems to be struggling in that particular area.
Might as well make Pat Neshek the GM at this point.
Yeah.
Couldn't do any worse.
No, please no, because we have a bunch of pitchers that are like, I'm not feeling it today.
It's true.
It's crazy. It's crazy to me how like different he can be in terms of offense and pitching. Like, because obviously I think we'd all agree that JT trade was great. The McCutchen trade was, or the McCutchen acquisition was good. I mean, even I know he's not producing it to where we want to, but like the value in the trade, the Segura trade was pretty good. Like he's able to add all that offense, which has all been really good. And then it just comes to pitching, and it's like he's never watched a game before. And it's like, how can you be like that different in these two, like just these two aspects of the game?
I think when you're investing so much money in pitching, I find that to be far more risky than that of an offensive player. An offensive player, you're getting you could potentially get 162 games out of them, a year. Bullpen pieces it's so hard to sit there. Like me personally, I don't know that I would ever throw a ton of money at bullpen pieces, but I would throw money at the right ones. And I would go with guys that you knew that you could count on. This is veterans in the back end of their career who are just flat out pitchers who can go out there and give you 2 innings now. Give those guys the contract. Let them be the ones to sit there and get that ball taken or take the ball from the starter. Like it's to go in here with what we have over the last 3 years, really. It's malpractice. It's embarrassing. But this one we do mercifully. We get a win against the Marlins here. When final score in game 2 was 7-1, Phillies mustered up 7 hits, 4 of those long balls, as we mentioned earlier. And then Wheeler's final line was 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks. Strikeouts were down at 4. But again, a really overall nice performance by him and a way to utilize a significantly better infield defensively than what we have been putting out there for the last several years. 4 double play balls for him. 4, and I think all of them were inning-ending double play balls. So managed his pitch count all night and really played to the effectiveness of what was working. So again, great game by Wheeler. Really nicely called game by JT. So it looked like things were maybe it was just that home opener. Let's swing some momentum our way. Entering game 3 of this series, lovely Sunday closer here at 105 start today. Felt like it was 100 degrees outside. And the Phillies offense jumps on the board. First 4 guys in, first 4 guys score. Up 4-0, and it's Vinny Velasquez, right? Vince, he has more lives than 40 cats put together. This guy just keeps getting the ball in a rotation. And at this point, and look, I'm guilty of it. I own this. If you asked me 14 hours ago, I would have told you how pumped I was for Vince Velasquez to go up against this Marlins team and go up against freaking anybody. Vince Velasquez was Vince Velasquez. If you watch this game, it's the second time you've seen this game. Last year we lost a game 19-11 in basically the same fashion. Phillies got spotted him a 6 or 7-0 lead, ended up losing the game 19-11. This game was truly maddening, and it was an absolute microcosm of all the things that have gone wrong in Philadelphia really over the last 8 to 10 years. This, to me, is what hurts the most. I can deal with mistakes. I can deal with errors, but when they are repetitive and it's the same thing year in and year out, and you bring in a different staff, or a different management, different pitching coach, different hitting coach, and it's the same errors and the same things, that's a top problem. That's a Middleton problem. That's a scouting problem. That's a development problem. That's everything. This game pissed me off so damn much. So much. On a Sunday, we had the opportunity to jump out quick and would take 2 or 3 of the Marlins, and no one's talking about it anymore. So let's get into some of this game. Right off the bat, Marlins starter Urena was late scratched. We don't know for sure. No one can confirm this, at least as of yet, any of the specific players, but we do know that 1, he was scratched, and 6 or 8 of players in this Marlins or in the Marlins clubhouse have tested positive for COVID or are believed to have that. They're actually staying in Philadelphia the extra day because of the outbreak that's going on right there. So they have, a third of a baseball team out there, which is really a third of the talent that anyone else in the major leagues has to begin with. So they're already at a deficit. Some guy just says, sure, I'll take the ball today. Not a problem. Gives them 70 pitches. Unbelievable. This game, I could rant about this game for hours. I am so pissed off about it. But early on, Rob, this is one of the first games that you were able to watch pretty much in its entirety today. How reminiscent of last year's Marlins game with Vince Velasquez was this? And at what point did it click for you that here we go again?
It was a mirror image. They jumped last year. I think it was a 7-0 lead. They took down in Miami. Today was the 4-0 lead. The Bryce 3-run homer. They added another run after that. Just about what was it, the top half of the second inning, I believe it was, or the third inning that Double V gave back all those runs. Yeah, he immediately gave back all those runs, and that's when it clicked for me. That's when it clicked. This is a mirror image of what happened down in Miami last season. Granted, they didn't give up 19 runs today. They only gave up 11. But oh my God, man. I had to turn it off. I was so tempted to just chuck my remote through the television, and I had to turn it off. I had to go do something. I went and I actually ended up reading a book, which is something I rarely do. Just to take my mind off of the bullshit that was on my television. It was just, my God, man. I didn't turn it off right away. I gave myself hope that they would recover, and they did. They took a 5-4 lead. They got that run back, but so many squandered opportunities after that, and the bullpen looked like complete garbage. Like, it looked like something that has been completely neglected by our great GM Matt Klentak. And oh my God, man,
doofus.
If he doesn't do something quickly, that is going to be a major issue throughout the rest of the season. Because if the bullpen's getting shelled by the Miami fucking Marlins, imagine what the Yankees are going to do to them. Imagine what the Mets and the Nationals and the Braves are going to do to them. Imagine what those bats up in Toronto are going to do to them. They got to do something.
Yeah,
and hopefully when they call up Spencer Howard after whatever the 7 games or whatever it is, that'll mean that they can push somebody into the bullpen. Maybe Vince, and they'll give him a little bit of flexibility. Maybe that can be advantageous, but there needs to be a move made. They're seriously, what they have going on with this bullpen right now is completely unacceptable.
I think that's it. I think it's gonna be Howard comes up and moves Vince to the pen, because it's no accident that Spencer Howard threw in the taxi squad game the same day Vince Velasquez threw today. So I think that's basically telling you that they're just waiting for the service time to kind of end, and then they're going to make the switch. And maybe that's just me being hopeful, but that's the way I'm reading into it, at least.
Well, they confirmed that Vince is starting on Friday. So I don't know what, like, I thought that was what it was. I thought that Spencer Howard pitching today meant that, Vince got a 1-game prove it kind of start, and then they came out after today's game, after he proved that he was the exact same Vince Velasquez that we've seen the last couple of years, and said that he's starting next Friday. So I don't know what to think anymore.
Well, they have a Johnny Heller, I think it was, I tweeted. He has like a 14.46 against the damn Marlins, and then against every other team, he somehow since July 24th of last year has like a 3.60 ERA. I'm like, how in God's green earth do you have a 3.60 ERA against every other team in baseball? Yet against the Marlins,
I don't know, the Marlins
just decided to field a decent team this year when it came to a lineup, because they signed Aguilar, who did good in 2018 and sucked last year, but he did good in 2018. Corey Dickerson, who we know how much I love him, and it pains me to see him kick our ass, but it happened. But
Adam Hazley has to buy him a couple beers. He's the reason he had 4 hits today. I've never seen so many misplayed balls in my life.
Hey,
by a former Gold Glover, no less.
Would have had 2 hits anyway, or at least 3, because watching some left fielders do not look good when it comes to fielding in MLB too much anymore. That's usually where you throw the stooges. So that's kind of the way it is in baseball nowadays. But no, I think our pitching absolutely sucks when it comes to our bullpen recently. Austin Davis was one of the guys. How is Austin Davis one of the guys that looks the best out of your pen? Austin Davis is obviously not that good. So obviously, if he's one of the guys that looks the best out of your pen in the first 3 games, you got a situation going already. When Matt Klentak thinks Trevor Kelly is the equivalent of a great veteran pickup, then he should probably look again, because Trevor Kelly is atrocious. he has never looked good in the MLB for more than 2 straight games, and then he falls off a cliff. And I know that because ever since my dad went on business trips in Boston, Boston tends to be the team I pay the second most attention to, and his awful pitching was on Boston for the past couple of years. So, no, he's not a good pickup at all. So Glenn Tech better get his head out of his you-know-what and trade for pitching earlier rather than later.
Man means ass.
Because they are having some trades being made. They're not big, but there have been some minor moves. So what goes to say you can't make a bigger move because nobody's afraid to move people around, obviously, since there's been minor trades. So Glenn Tech needs to get going and get on the phone and get some relief help, especially from the right-handed side, because we definitely don't need more lefties, especially when Suarez comes back.
So to put it in perspective, the Washington Nationals had an absolutely horrid bullpen for the better part of 2 years there. You know, they always had the offense there. Their starting pitching is obviously phenomenal, but you get to the 6th, 7th, innings and beyond, and that team, anyone can come in there and beat them because that's how bad that bullpen was. Last year they addressed that, and I don't know what did they do last year? They beat a cheating team in the fucking World Series. Why? Because they went out there and they acquired the necessary pieces. That has to count for something. You have to look in division, like 120 miles up the fucking road, and see, they did it. It worked. Maybe I should do the same fucking thing. But again, and Andrew mentioned this earlier, they seem, for whatever reason, in this major market of Philadelphia, to be penny pinching as they approach the luxury tax. I don't know if anyone else doesn't know the rules about the luxury tax, but it does re-fucking set after you go back under it. Just go over the fucking tax.
I don't think Matt Glentek knows the rules about the luxury tax.
Just go over the tax. Just go over it.
I don't think Matt Glentek knows how to tie his goddamn shoes, let alone run a baseball team.
No, he can do anything outside of it. Where would he go? Dartmouth or something? I don't know. I can't fucking remember where he went to school.
Ivy League doesn't mean shit anymore.
Whatever. Regardless, he could do everything outside of his actual job description, and that's alarming.
Yeah, and it might have been you, Shane, that told me this about one of the reasons why they cut Francisco Liriano, because it would have made him too close to the luxury tax. And it's like, that guy wasn't making that much. Like even if you go slightly over it, isn't the percentage based off how much you go over? So even if maybe Francisco Liriano's small contract would have put you over by a couple thousand, it's not like it would have been that much more. And like, just seeing guys like Cole Irvin pitch today, and like, I don't know how he keeps making the team, but like, how do you keep a guy like, how do you keep a Cole Irvin over a veteran like Francisco Liriano? Where, I mean, I honestly think if you keep Liriano, he doesn't come in and give up the 4 runs. Like, he might come in with that 1-run lead today and protect it a little better than Cole Irvin did today. And it's just like, those things are just frustrating because you see Cole Irvin pitch how many times his last few years, and he just, I mean, last year I felt like he gave up at least 2 runs every time he came in. I feel like he had 2 or 3 outings, then he went straight back to the minors. And that's why it's a shame, because you keep bringing in these managers and they keep always getting the blame, but it's like they can only do so much. Like, you can only deal with the cards you're dealt. And I'm afraid, like, eventually if you keep this up, because I don't think Clentak's going to go anywhere because of the virus. I think that keeps him an extra year. And it's just going to keep running different managers out of towns. And, I mean, it's just going to get to the point where no one's going to want to come here.
Yeah, Cole Irvin blows. The only reason they kept him up is because he can locate the strike zone. The only issue is he throws it right over the heart of the strike zone. So I would like to get paid as much as he gets paid to just throw a ball right over the heart of the strike zone, because I can give up home runs. I would love to get paid to do that.
Cole Irvin had no business being on this opening day roster.
No, either do I. That's why I should try out.
All right, so let's talk about just some of the kind of the glaring points and observations that I made from this first opening series, in which the Phillies obviously dropped 2 of 3 to, once again, the lowly Marlins, because that's the way life works in Philadelphia. Would it shock anyone if we take 3 or 4 or even 4 or 4 from the Yankees at this point now? Like, because everything makes sense. But regardless,
let's talk 2020. Nothing makes sense about this year or anything that's happening this year.
Very true. Very true. All right, so let's start with Gene Segura. The guy gets in really, really good shape. And if there's one thing that I loathe hearing at the start of any new year is that someone's in the best shape of their life. And I always think, fuck off. Like, you're a professional athlete. If you can't get your body right, you're just lazy. Well, he was anything but lazy in the off season. He looks to have gotten really, really healthy. My God, I don't know what part of someone who loses 20 pounds or 18 pounds, whatever it was that he said he lost, thinks, you know what? Me as a small stature human, a slap hitter, if you will, I'm going to swing for the fucking fences every single time that I am up. If that guy doesn't find some back control soon, I would actually like to never see him on the baseball field again. He has played a really good defensive third base so far. His role, part of it to me, and I'll steal one from Rob earlier, as a mindset thing, or could be a mindset thing, being in the sixth hole as Gene Segura is fucking moronic. But at what point does Dylan go over there, or does a teammate go over there? Or I don't know if the dude's married or not. What if his wife goes over there and smacks him upside the head and says, hey, you're a fucking slap hitter. Just hit the ball the other way. Hit 300, Ben Revere it, and move on, because we need him on base. We don't need him to sit here and leave guys stranded. What are the early observations from you over there, Sean, on the Gene Segura experiment?
Listen, can we just appreciate that he hasn't run up the first baseline and grabbed his hamstring? Can we just appreciate that he hasn't gotten hurt? I mean,
he's
on
18 pounds less.
Player.
Yeah, he's in the best shape of his life. That's why.
I couldn't agree with you more, Shane. Honestly, and like I said, I wasn't able to watch. I watched 1.5 games. But, it was infuriating to me, trying to follow, pulling my phone out of my pocket for like 2 seconds, pulling up, the at-bat app and seeing Gene Segura up. And then the next thing that pops up on my phone is Shane in our group chat saying, can he stop swinging for the fences? It pisses me off. Like, we brought in this guy, in sort of a dump trade, but he was supposed to be a starter because he can get on base. He bats 300. He's a former all-star. He's shown flashes of how good he can be when he just slaps his bat at the ball and gets on base. Yeah. So why does he come in, like you said, losing 18 to 20 pounds, whatever it was? I'm not going to lie. When the Phillies post an Instagram post of all their players, he looks absolutely jacked. But there's no reason for a guy that's found success in the majors on a different team to change his approach in any way. He's already been the best form of himself. Why is he trying to change that?
Exactly. And what his body transformation to me should be and should have meant was, hey, you know what? I might be able to stretch some of these singles to doubles now. I may be able to go first to third that much easier. I may be able to start swiping bags at a higher clip again, like I did earlier in my career. I can maximize those things that I'm already fucking great at. But not Gene Segura. Gene Segura thinks that he's what the fans thought Rhys Hoskins was.
Yeah.
Like, it is a goddamn nightmare watching him in the
like
box.
he's Judge.
A little bit, man. He's
without the results.
It's not even a clean swing.
No results.
It looks terrible. Absolutely horrendous. But that's my note on Segura there.
But I was going to say, Shane, him
go ahead.
real quick. I think he should have saw from that pitch he saw. He hit that curveball at like his shins, which is like what he's always been able to do with his back control. I thought that would have locked him in and been like, oh crap, I have some of the best back control in the league. I should just start swinging for contact and hitting it to the other way or doing like exactly that. But that still didn't even lock him in. Like they say, sometimes it takes one at bat to lock you in. Well, obviously that's not the case for Gene Segura because that didn't do anything.
I think he's an idiot. I just think he's flat out an idiot.
He did all this work to get in shape, but he couldn't exercise his brain to not swing at a pitch that is at his fucking shoulders. Basically, what was it? Bases loaded and 1 out, right? And I think there was it a 1 strike count or a no strike count? He swings at a pitch.
48 times.
He swings at a pitch that's at his shoulders. And by the way, I think this is when they're down 10-6, so that like the bases loaded, you have a chance to get back into this baseball game. He swings at a pitch at his shoulders, and he pops it up. I mean, come on, dude.
It's atrocious.
I agree. I think his approach from when there's a runner on base to when he's just up there with nobody on it just changes so much. I feel like when he's up with nobody on base, he kind of keeps that contact swing. But the moment somebody gets on base, he tries to be that hero rather than just like trying to get that that same single or double or whatever. So he tries to drive in all the runs at once, and that's why it's like almost just like throw him at the top of the order before everybody gets on. That way, like if he actually does, that mindset does kind of affect him that much, where maybe he does just kind of stay that single approach. Because I mean, last year when he was at the top of the order, he did have that kind of approach to it where. I mean, when he's at the 6th spot, you're going to have Harper, JT, and all those guys get on base for him. And, I mean, you saw it today with the bases loaded. Twice he came up there, and he gets the infield fly and then that weak fly ball to left field. So
That's
Yeah,
also
if he just pokes a base hit there, 2 runs scored, it's a 10-8 game, and you got runners on first and second with still 1 out and a chance to do even more damage.
Segura's got to live by the simple motto of just keep it simple, stupid. Like that's literally that's all he has to do. Like been his whole career. He's just kept it simple, went with the way of the pitch. For some reason now, because he's in shape, he thinks he's Aaron Judge, and he's not close. So I don't know what the hell he's doing. So he just needs to keep the damn game simple.
honestly, what about the 9 spot?
I would turn it over with him in a heartbeat.
Anybody but Roman Quinn, right, Shane?
Say what?
Anybody but Roman Quinn, right?
Oh yeah, I was dead wrong on that. Like
That's fine.
only 3 games in, I'm out. Like I bought in. Summer camp was great. Kid was fun. Girardi loved him. I was feeling it. It took like 3 at bats, and I was like, I remember why I loathe you.
That might be the quickest I've ever seen someone change their tune on a player before.
Then he hits a home run tomorrow and changes. Like, I'm right
No,
back.
it's gonna piss me off. No, he's a fast human. Just
First
use
of all,
your
if he's-
fucking speed.
If he's starting tomorrow and not Hazley after dropping 4 hits in his first game
It's
of the
a
season,
lefty though.
it is well, I don't care. Joe Kapler has finally
Can't have that
showed
anymore.
Yeah.
That's gonna stop.
I mean, Goslin came in tonight as a pinch hitter, and he hit I don't know when he came in actually because I didn't actually watch the game, but when I could watch the game, he comes in and hits a single his first at bat, and I just kind of look around like, how is this guy not in the lineup? I mean, play his bat until he's cold, but
Yeah, I thought
changing
that
the subject.
was funny how quick they took out Neil Walker and put Goslin back in. Like Walker had 1 at bat, and then they're like, all right, you're done. We'll put Goslin in the 3rd inning.
Yeah, they promised him to start. They're like, okay, we started him. Screw this. Phil, get back in there.
For sure. So 2 of my final bits of note here, and I'll kind of put them in one, is one, I don't know that I've ever in my life at any fucking level seen a baseball team that is as horrid as the Philadelphia Phillies with runners in scoring position and less than 2 outs. And 2, are we just completely allergic to fastballs directly in the middle of the plate? Like, I don't know if anyone has made an ounce of contact with a fastball or a hanging curve directly over the heart of the plate. Do you attribute to just the fact that maybe the pitchers are a little ahead of the hitters right now? Do you think that, I don't know, the last 10 years of this happening, this is just who the entire city of Philadelphia is at this point? Doesn't matter who comes through these doors. When you walk into Citizens Bank Park and you put on this ugly-ass red that we have, it should be burgundy, you're just suddenly never going to contact anything in the strike zone again. What is it? What makes this happen? Sean, I'll go to you again just because I know you only got to watch a little bit of this game there.
And from watching on the at-bat app, it pisses me off when, players come up and I'm watching the pitchers come in, with the generic right-handed and left-handed batters with the strike zone. And I'm watching the first pitch, just a solid 1, go right down the middle, and it says strike looking or whatever it says. And I'm just sitting there like at what point do you start swinging the bat on the first pitch strike down the middle? And that goes for not just Rhys Hoskins, who I know we've touched on, and he's worked 7 walks in the series. He's almost allowed to do that. But at what point do you start just pulling the trigger and saying, chances are I'm going to get a first pitch?
They're swinging through it.
Right.
Well, not Hoskins, everyone else.
It's they got to figure it out. They got to figure out, if they're going to get that first pitch strike, how to hit it. If it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's almost like, and maybe I'm being optimistic here, but it's almost like they got so unlucky this first series that it'll finally start catching up to them, that they're anticipating that first pitch fastball right down the middle, and they'll finally start to hit it. Once Joe Dillon figures it out, once Joe Girardi starts to figure it out, once these hitters start to figure it out, like getting back to normal pitching. But it's just infuriating seeing it for the first series against a team that we're supposed to beat. Maybe, the Marlins are not the team that we should have let it off with, I don't know what it is, but we just couldn't hit the series.
Yeah, not great. Not great at all. So I have two final thoughts here, and then I'm going to get to everyone else's final thoughts before we sign this one out for tonight. But before I get to my two final thoughts, again, Phillies lose 2 of 3 to the Marlins here, and we have 4 up in New York starting tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. So my first final thought is I didn't know that I could love another human as much as I love Anthony Rizzo. Just pulling out some sanitizer at first base, just saying, here, pal, take a squirt. I thought that was fucking hilarious. So good on you over there in Chicago, Anthony Rizzo. And then my second final thought, it's a question. I'm going to pose it to all you guys. Is the city of Philadelphia more obsessed with Gabe Kapler's hopeful failure in San Francisco than they are with actual winning baseball in Philadelphia? Because the tweet ratio that I saw on my timeline was a hell of a lot of attacking and praise for the fact that they are so happy that Kapler's Giants are atrocious through no fault of his own. That roster is worse than ours by every single account. But why are we more obsessed with someone who is now gone? And Sean, I'm starting with you again, since you've twice brought his name up that way, fucking-rectly. Why are we so still obsessed with a man who honestly didn't get a totally fair shake here in Philadelphia, working for Clentac?
Well, like I said, I'm a believer. I've always been a believer in Kapler, and I've mentioned it on this podcast before. I have a bet with my friend that by the 2030 season, if Kapler wins a World Series, I get $100. So unless he dies, I'm gonna be $100 richer in the next 10 years because I truly do believe in him as a manager. I think he's gonna win eventually. But his experience here was necessary because it feels like he got all of his growing pains in Philadelphia. He learned what the harshest sports city in America was, and he learned how not to deal with, certain situations. And I feel like he did learn all of those important lessons at an early stage of his managing career to where he can take everything he knew into account, minus, 4 outfielders and 3 infielders, which, and even though that was a scrimmage game, that was laughable. But I do still believe in him, and I don't understand the obsession with him failing over there, which with a much less talented team. It blows my mind because he's gone. It's like how Philly still obsesses over Jimmy Butler when he left. Like, he's gone. Focus on the team you have in front of you instead of this team has so much potential. I mean, if they ever live up to it, but why focus on the non-success? He's building underlying success in San Francisco. He's building connections with the players. He's learning what he has and how to deal with certain, obstacles. And I think it's going to help him as manager over the years.
Me too, man. I really don't understand why anyone's wasting their time. I have never once in my life gone back to an ex. I don't think I've ever answered the phone for a fucking ex. I don't know why Philadelphia seems so goddamn obsessed with Kapler. He's a beautiful man. But holy shit, move on. Move on. We have the older version of him. They're the same fucking guy. But that was my final thought here. Twitter needs to do better. That's paying absolutely.
Shane,
what's up?
Your favorite person, Anthony Rizzo, is a free agent at the end of this year. If Hoskins continues to just walk and do nothing else, sign Anthony Rizzo, trade Reese.
Threatening me with a good time, man? I'm in. All fucking in.
Okay.
But before I get to each of your final thoughts tonight, I just want to remind everyone that the greatest food in this entire area comes from Just Food. It's 215-794-FOOD, 215-794-3663. Treat yourself. Take it home. Visit our guy over there, Asian Rob. He will literally make you anything. He is so damn happy the baseball season is back. He's been walking around wearing his Chasing the Pennant t-shirt in his shop, which I very much so appreciate. It was fucking adorable. I was wearing mine. Did not know he was wearing his. Walked into his shop to pick up lunch. There it was on opening day. And I was like, Rob, thanks so much for supporting the podcast that, we obviously sell your shit. But everyone should 100% go over there and at least once check them out. Stop there, grab some lunch, grab some dinner. If you have a catering thing that you just want to give it a go, they're excellent food and really, really great people. So again, it's Just Food, 215-794-FOOD, 215-794-3663. Treat yourself, take it home. So I'm going to go to Rob here. Rob, you have a final thought for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to what you were saying about Kapler before.
Yeah, go ahead.
I did put something out on Twitter. I will admit that, and you probably saw it.
I did
I
not.
will say
I
that
want to punch you. You could have gotten away with this.
Okay, well, I do not go, and I will not go out of my way to watch Gabe Kapler lose. But if I happen to stumble across it, I'm gonna kind of enjoy the moment a little bit, much like I did when I watched Chip Kelly go 2-14 with the other San Francisco team, the 49ers. But yeah, other than that, my real final thought is fire Clantac.
We're starting so early. All right. Bork, what is your final thought tonight, man?
My final thought is obviously, like I said, kind of in the podcast, I kind of gave it away, but we need to get relief pitching help, not left-handers. I swear to God, if we trade for another left-hander, like Matt Glentak obviously has no eyeballs because we have million lefties with Ranger Suarez coming back, but I could see his dumb ass doing that. But yeah, trade for a right-hander that's actually good and not Trevor Kelly, please. Yes, that's my final thought, with the other one being Zach Wheeler looked money in his first start. Still think he's going to finish top 5 in the Cy Young. Still think Aaron Nola is going to do great, though, too. He's just going to bounce back. He's going to take a little bit. He was a little bit late to camp, so, he's just going to take a little bit. I think he's going to have a great second start.
Okay. All right, Sean, your final thoughts, sir.
This for opening weekend didn't hurt as much to me because tomorrow is my birthday. So
happy
hopefully,
birthday, old man.
Maybe the Phillies will come out on my actual birthday tomorrow and beat the Yankees with very undermatched talent. And maybe they'll actually come out and tie the series. I predict that they'll somehow pull out 2 or 3 games against the Yankees. Nice. I don't know how, but baseball and Philadelphia sports, it doesn't make sense. But maybe they'll pull off a miracle. I don't know. Maybe Giancarlo Stanton will only hit 1 home run in the 4 games that we face him, and maybe we'll get lucky. I don't know. So we'll see.
You see that fucking missile he hit yesterday?
Yeah, that would have killed somebody if there was actual people seated there.
Yeah.
121 off the bat, and it went 486 feet?
Yeah, insane.
Something like that.
And then Judge's homer would have killed somebody too, because he hit that seamer into that. Didn't go far, but he hit like 100 and whatever it was, like 10 into the first row. So that would have been
a good way to die.
Yeah,
a real good way to die. Andrew, your final thought.
Well, quick, the ultimate Philadelphia game would be Zach Eflin somehow finding a way to beat Garrett Cole on Tuesday. If that happens, that would be the ultimate Philadelphia game. I think.
Strong.
What was it?
7 strong from Zach Eflin after coming back from an injury.
He is the master of the complete game in Philadelphia. Since Doc, he's leading the way.
We might need a complete game with the way this bullpen goes, especially against the Yankees offense. So we might need a complete game.
We're gonna go back to 1970s and 80s style pitching and before.
Yeah, just let him throw like 150 pitches.
Yeah, who gives a shit?
But no, my final thought would be I think the offense. I know they didn't come through in big situations with runners on base, but I think the offense will be fine. I think that was kind of just a fluke thing this weekend, kind of still trying to find some rhythm. I think it's also a mix. I think with Girardi being a new manager, I think he's going to play with the lineup for the first kind of week to try to feel where everyone he wants them in the lineup. So I think you're going to see a couple mixed lineups throughout the week until we kind of find one that really kind of gets the team going. Because even though they scored 7 runs and got the win Saturday night, Shane, like you said, it was really only a couple swings that made the difference. It wasn't like the whole offense was kind of in sync and kind of fed off each other. So I think this is going to be an important week where he's kind of going to still feel kind of things out, and I think it's going to eventually start to click once we get a few games under the belt under the new manager. So I think that's going to play a big part.
Hell yeah.
All right, man. So We have, as we mentioned, 4 games coming up against the New York Yankees. We throw out there Jake Arrieta, who we never know, honestly, what we're going to get. We have Zach Eflin going, and then we go right back to Nola and the top of the rotation there. So it'll be an interesting series for sure. I love any time we get to play the Yankees. I hate that we can't go. It's always a good time to go to New York, and catch a game. I just received a text from Biscuit out of nowhere, and he said, "Don't fucking forget about me." Signed, Jacob Tyler Romuto.
I was just about to say, side JT for Biscuit.
So yeah, like all bold letters and everything. I don't even know how you got bold letters on a text message, but like, good on you, Biscuit. You are a quality human, and you are never forgotten, even on the episodes you're not on. So yeah, sign JT, even though he has a single swing on the year so far. But we're gonna be back now for 3 shows a week going into the season. So we're gonna do Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. We may adjust it throughout the year, just depending on how the schedule works out. But this is gonna, for the most part, be the format. We will throw in some more AMA questions and stuff. We know we didn't get to answer all the ones from last time. We'll have a couple different side bits, and we'll have something or other interesting things to talk about along the way beyond just Philadelphia Phillies baseball dropping 2 of 3 to the lowly Marlins to open up the 2020 season. Hopefully things get significantly more interesting.
We should definitely have some good AMA questions about the damn bullpen if they keep sucking like this.
We very well may. I don't know. Everyone post it to your accounts, and we'll try to gather up some questions for this week's Tuesday and Thursday show. Other than that, we're going to send this one over to the Jackdolls to sign us out, as we always do. Visit their website, www.jackdolls.com. These are some of the most multi-talented humans I've ever met in my life. They are now doing cooking shows live on Facebook. So search for them on Facebook. I believe their Patreon is linked there as well. But again, that's just the Jackdolls. So www.thejackdolls.com. Thank you, guys. We are chasing the pennant officially now for the first time in the 2020 season. Off to a hell of a start. We'll see you guys on Tuesday night.
Fire Clintac.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still have me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.